The schoolyard is boiling under the midday sun. The sound is deafening. Basketballs bouncing on the concrete, shrill screams, overlapping conversations. For Samuel, a 12-year-old boy sitting on a concrete bench, it all comes at once. The strong smell of other kids' snacks, the rough fabric of his own pants, the sunlight bouncing off the white floor, hurting his eyes. A group of boys passes by him. They don't touch him. They don't call him names. The cruelty is more subtle. They start to exaggerate the way Samuel waves his hands when he's anxious. One of them repeats a phrase Samuel said in class, but with a robotic, empty voice. The laughter that follows is like needles piercing the protective bubble he desperately tries to maintain around himself. Samuel doesn't react. He just shrinks a little more, focusing on the pattern of cracks in the concrete at his feet. It was safer to look at the floor. The floor didn't mock him. Night has fallen. The school is silent, a sleeping giant. The only light comes from the principal's office. Inside, Anna, an elegant and controlled-looking woman, sits at her massive dark wood desk. The sign on the desk reads, Anna Kowalski, principal. But right now, she is not the principal. She is a mother. She watches the security camera footage of what happened in the courtyard earlier. She sees her son cowering. She sees the cruel smiles. Her voice in narration is an intimate outpouring, broken and full of pain. I built this place. Every brick, every rule, every inclusion program in the manuals. I sign the memos about zero tolerance for bullying. I give speeches at parent meetings about creating a safe and welcoming environment. And all of that becomes a bad joke when the child who needs that safe environment is mine. It's my son. I see what happens to him in the hallways, in the playgrounds, between the lines of conversations. And a primitive instinct, a lioness's fury, grows inside me. I want to drag those boys into this room, call their parents, and use all the weight of my position to crush them, to make them feel a fraction of what my Samuel feels every day. But I can't, because if I do, I won't be the principal protecting a student. I'll be the mother using her power to avenge her son. And they'll say it's an overreaction. They'll say that kids will be kids. They'll say that Samuel is too sensitive. They will invalidate his pain and mine all at once. So I sit here, on this throne of useless power, and watch my son get hurt in my kingdom. I made the rules of the game, and now I'm forced to play by them, even if it means watching my own son bleed. The sign on my desk says principal, but the word screaming in my heart is mother, and the pain of being both at the same time in this place is a burden I don't know how much longer I can carry. I feel like the worst fraud ever, a queen who can't protect her own prince. She turns off the monitor. The silence in the room is overwhelming. The only thing you can hear is her trembling breath. Anna decides to act, but with the caution her position demands. She tries the institutional approach, the false hope that the system she herself created will work without a personal and explicit push. First, she calls an emergency general assembly with the 6th through 9th graders. From the stage of the auditorium, she speaks with her firm principal's voice. Her speech is flawless, talking about empathy, about the invisible wounds that words can cause, about each person's responsibility in building a community of respect. Look at the classmate next to you, she says, with her usual polished rhetoric. You don't know the battles he faces in silence. As she speaks, her gaze sweeps across the audience and pauses for a second on the boys who mocked Samuel. They stand with their arms crossed, whispering to each other, clearly bored. For them, the speech is just another abstract and distant adult lecture. Doesn't connect. It doesn't change anything. 2 weeks later, the problem persists. The mockery continues, perhaps even more disguised. Anna tries a new tactic. She sends an internal memo to all teachers, titled, Redoubling Our Attention, The Fight Against Microbullying. The text is urgent, detailing subtle forms of exclusion and harassment, calling for more vigilance during breaks and more active intervention. She hopes that, armed with this new directive, teachers will become her eyes and ears. Her hope is short-lived. At a follow-up meeting, the history teacher, Mr. Martins, an overworked and somewhat cynical man, sums up the general reaction. Anna, with all due respect, we have 35 students per class, a curriculum to cover, and a pile of tests to grade. We can't be the thought police for everyone. If there are no punches or screams, we have to assume they're working it out. Kids are kids. He doesn't speak out of malice, but out of exhaustion and a systemic view that she herself has long tolerated. At that moment, Anna realizes the terrible truth. The tools she has created, the speeches, the memos, are merely palliative. To combat such specific pain, she would need a much sharper weapon. Bureaucracy was not going to save her son. The last straw comes during a physical education class. The teacher divides the teams, and as always, Samuel is the last to be chosen. The leader of the group of bullies, a boy named Lucas, sighs loudly and says, "Oh no, we got stuck. With Robot again. We've already lost." The insult is said with a smile as if it were a harmless joke. The teacher hears it but only says, "Come on, Lucas, less drama and more game." He doesn't intervene, he doesn't educate, he minimizes. The next day, Anna calls the teacher, Mr. Tavares, to a meeting in her office. The atmosphere is tense. She decides to keep up her principal's mask for now. "Carlos," she begins, her voice controlled, "I received a report about an incident in your class yesterday, involving the student Samuel." Mr. Tavares shifts in his chair, uncomfortable but defensive. "Principal, it was just a silly thing about teams. You know how kids are. Competitive. Samuel, he's not very athletic. The others were just being honest, maybe in a rough way." Anna's calm begins to crumble inside. Honest? They called him a robot. That's not honesty, Carlos. That's dehumanization. It's isolating a student based on his difficulties and turning it into entertainment for others. Your job wasn't just to referee the game, it was to educate. And you failed. The teacher gets angry. He's not a villain. He's an ordinary man with his own prejudices and limitations, who feels unfairly attacked. "Look, Anna, I do my best. But the boy is different. He doesn't interact. He doesn't follow the rules of the game like the others. It's hard to integrate him. With all due respect, maybe he'd be better off somewhere more suited to him. We can't stop the class every time." Someone makes a joke. The suggestion that her son doesn't belong there, the place she runs, ignites Anna's fury. But she swallows it. The conflict there wasn't just with that teacher. It was with a mindset, a culture of indifference that she now realized with painful clarity had allowed to grow under her own roof. She was no longer just fighting for Samuel. She was fighting against the flawed foundation of her own institution. "No one, Carlos," she says, her voice low and dangerous, "is going to suggest that one of my students does not belong at this school. No one. What is going to happen is that you and every other teacher are going to learn how to teach everyone. No exceptions. Am I clear?" Anna leaves the meeting with Mr. Tavares knowing that individual punishments would not be enough. Change could not come from an outburst of anger, but from a silent and relentless restructuring of the school's foundations. The turnaround is not an act. It is a plan. That night, she does not go home. She stays in her office, and the camera shows her working feverishly, not on memos but on something new. She spreads books on neurodiversity, developmental psychology, and inclusive education across her desk. The meticulous principal gives way to a war strategist. Her first action is to hire a team of consultants specializing in neurodivergent education, not for a one-time lecture, but for an ongoing mandatory training program for all staff, from the physics teacher to the janitor. The theme is not tolerance, but understanding and adaptation. The second action is the creation of a new position at the school, Wellness and Inclusion Coordinator, someone with the authority to intervene directly in the classroom and create individualized support plans, taking this burden off the shoulders of overworked teachers. The third and most radical action is the implementation of the Prisma project. Once a month, all classes are replaced by practical workshops on empathy. In one room, students try to perform simple tasks wearing thick gloves to simulate motor difficulties. In another, they wear headphones with white noise to understand sensory overload. In another, they participate in simulations where nonverbal communication is prohibited. They are forced to experience firsthand a glimpse of their classmates' realities. Anna's turnaround is quiet, because she does not announce it as a personal crusade. She presents it to the school board and parents as a necessary, pedagogical modernization to prepare students for a diverse world. She uses the language of management to promote a revolution of the heart. She is no longer just protecting her son. She is rebuilding the fortress to serve all those who feel different, transforming her pain as a mother into an unshakable institutional policy. The following months are ones of resistance and adaptation. Some teachers grumble, some parents think it's overkill, but Anna stands firm, and then the small victories begin to blossom, proving that change was possible. The first victory comes in the library. Samuel is sitting at a table, reading, gently rocking his hands. Lucas, the leader of the mockers, approaches with his group. The instinct is to expect the worst. But this time, something is different. One of Lucas's friends starts to imitate Samuel's gesture. Before the laughter starts, Lucas interrupts him. "Stop that, man," he says, his voice low, almost ashamed. "We learned about that. It's just his way of concentrating. Leave him alone." It's not an apology, it's not a grand redemption. It's a small but seismic act of decency. Samuel, who heard everything, doesn't react, but his hand movements become a little softer, less frantic. The second victory is musical. As part of the Prisma project, the school creates decompression spaces, quiet rooms with low lighting and soothing textures. The music teacher, inspired, starts an experimental music club in these spaces, using electronic instruments and headphones, where each student can create their own soundscape without overwhelming others. Samuel, who has always shunned noisy music classes, signs up. The camera shows him with his eyes closed, headphones on, his fingers moving skillfully over a synthesizer. He's not just participating, he's creating, smiling a tiny, almost imperceptible smile. He has found a way to participate in the world on his own terms. The final victory is for Anna. She is in her office, and the new inclusion coordinator enters. "Just to update you," says the coordinator, "the science group has asked Samuel to join them. They're working on a programming project and said that no one understands pattern logic like he does." Anna looks at the coordinator, and for the first time in a long time, the smile on her face is not that of a principal, but that of a proud mother. The system she had redesigned was finally starting to work. Her son wasn't just being tolerated, he was starting to be valued. It's the end of a school event, a science fair. The gym, once noisy, is now almost empty. Anna walks slowly between the booths, the sound of her heels echoing in the silence. From a distance, she sees Samuel. He is showing his programming project to a small group of students and the science teacher. He speaks softly, without much eye contact, but with a passion and knowledge that capture everyone's attention. They are not looking at his peculiarities. They are fascinated by his mind. Anna stops, hidden behind a booth, and just watches. The image of her son, confident in his element, is the reward for all her struggle. Her inner narration fills the scene, a reflection that mixes power, love, and a newly discovered humility. "I always thought my power came from this room, this chair, the title on the door. I thought power was the ability to dictate rules, to punish, to control. How ironic. The greatest act of power I have ever exercised did not come from an order, but from pain, a mother's pain. For years I ran this school with my head, with spreadsheets, with performance goals. I saw the students as a collective, a statistic. It took the pain of my own son to make me see the individuals, to remind me that behind every enrollment there is a story, a silent struggle, a unique need." She sees Lucas, the former bully, approach Samuel's booth and ask a genuinely interested question about the project. Samuel answers without hesitation. "A bridge has been built over the chasm that separated them. I didn't change this school for Samuel. I changed this school because of him. He was my teacher. He taught me that true inclusion isn't about treating everyone the same. It's about giving everyone what they need to thrive. He forced me to break the system I helped build and create something better, something more humane. I'm still the principal, but I no longer feel like a fraud, because I finally understand that true authority doesn't come from a title. It comes from love. And love doesn't write memos. It breaks down walls." She turns and walks away, leaving her son to shine in the light that he, with her help, has earned. The final meeting. In Anna's office, Lucas and his parents are sitting. The atmosphere is heavy. The parents are defensive, ready to argue against a suspension. "I called you here today," Anna begins, her voice calm but with an unmistakable weight, "because Lucas's behavior has been a recurring problem. The mockery, the exclusion, these are not small things. They have a target, and that target is always the same student, Samuel. Lucas's father, an impatient man, interjects. Principal, with all due respect, my son says it was just a joke. The other boy is just too sensitive. Lucas is a good boy. Maybe he just needs a warning. Anna looks at the father, then at the mother, and finally at Lucas, who is staring at his shoes. She takes a deep breath. It's the moment of truth. I don't doubt that Lucas is a good boy at heart, she says softly. But good boys are also capable of causing a lot of pain, and I need you to understand the depth of that pain. I need you to understand why, for me, this isn't just a disciplinary matter like any other. She pauses, letting the silence settle. Her eyes lock with Lucas's father's. I know Samuel very well. I know he doesn't process the world like we do. I know that noise hurts him physically. I know he has trouble understanding sarcasm, and that every laugh directed at him is like a stone. I know he spends every night trying to understand what he did wrong to make others dislike him. She leans forward, the principal's mask finally falling away completely, revealing only the mother. Her voice is a powerful whisper, laden with the weight of months of pent-up anguish. I know all this because the boy your son has been tormenting for months, the robot, the weirdo, is my son. The silence that follows is absolute. Shocking. Lucas's parents stare at her, their faces shifting from defensiveness to disbelief and finally to the horror of understanding. They weren't just standing in front of the school principal, they were standing in front of the mother of the child their son had hurt. Lucas raises his head for the first time, his face pale. Reality hits him like a punch. Anna doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't announce a punishment. She just lets them absorb the truth. The issue now, she concludes, is not what punishment Lucas will receive. The question is what we, all of us, are going to do to ensure that he and everyone else learns that empathy is not an option. It's the only rule that really matters. The fight is not over, but now it will be fought with the truth exposed, with the hope that understanding, not fear, will be the real lesson. Sometimes, to defend a child, a mother doesn't need to raise her voice. She just needs to use hers. And the voice of a principal, when she speaks from the heart of a mother, has the power to rewrite all the rules. The greatest authority does not come from a position. It comes from the courage to fight for those you love, no matter how silent the battle. A mother's journey is full of invisible struggles. If this story moved you and made you think, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share this video. You may, without knowing it, give strength to another mother or father who is fighting their own battle today.